Hi, how are you? I thought that we'd talk about reading today and why it might be beneficial for you if you don't read already. Of course, reading has many benefits. You can acquire information, you can develop your creativity, or you can use it just to relax and enjoy as an entertainment, and maybe a relaxing one. Do you fall asleep in the evenings just like that? Do you feel happy and relaxed and content and then just close your eyes and fall asleep? Or do you have to think that all the lights are out and there is cool and there is calm and there is silent and even then you might have to take a sleep medication to fall asleep? Well, if that is the case, or anyway, I would encourage you to start reading. I have a habit of reading almost every night if we haven't been out for a dinner or something like that. We read something from 90 minutes to 2 hours, and I read always paper books. I don't read from computer or from a smartphone or some gadget. Paper books have that benefit that they don't bleep. They don't send messages or alarms to my face when I don't want to. I can concentrate fully on what I'm reading and what's happening in the book. I can take a pause and look outside and think how the people would look like and how it would smell and everything like that. So I can make the book more vivid in my mind. And the events unravel from the book on the pace that I want to. They are not force-fed to me. And that's why I find partly reading very relaxing. The pace is what I want it to be. Of course, books can be quite educational too. I read both fiction and educational books that are written by researchers or psychologists or whomever they are written by. But in those evenings, I divide my evening into two parts. First, I read the educational book, and then I read the fiction in the end. So I can be relaxed enough to fall asleep. Fiction books can be quite educational too. For example, I read now books from the 1800s, and even though the events themselves are fiction, they happen in real surroundings. The writers write their stories to the society that they live in and to their class. And that's why there is real history hidden in the fiction books when they are really old. And of course, these people didn't write their books to be happening in the moon, but in their own society. And in there you can read what people thought in those days about the burning questions of their times. What was, for example, status of women? What did they think that women are capable of, and what's women's role? And what did the women themselves think about their role? Of course, most of the writers are men, naturally, but still they really try to grasp the thought of a woman. But they also are quite political, all of them. They have their own agenda. They are mostly upper class people, but they want to change and they see the forces of change in their surroundings and in their society, and they comment on that. They can put their characters into one end of the spectrum and someone else on the other end, and then make them discuss with one another about the burning topics of the day. And that's quite educational to really know that the politics, the climate, nowadays has been present even in 200 years ago. So very little have changed, actually. And another thing that hasn't changed, and I find really endearing in the books, is the way that they describe feelings. The people in the books from the 1800s feel the same feelings as we do and worry the same worries that we do. So this isn't something overly complicated that we live in. It's just the same. And of course, if we are very stressed about our finances or something like that, it's reassuring to read that people in very different conditions, even if they are very poor, they still get enjoyment, the same things that we do. Some people say that books are boring, but I disagree. It depends on a book you read. And that's why I thought that I would publish some book reviews, some tips what you might be interested to read that I have read and many other people have read and found them good. But sometimes I get across a bad book or depressing book. I usually give them about 50 pages, and if it's still depressing, I changed for a different book. I don't want to read bad books or the books that make me feel bad. That's not the point. Even if the book is very famous and very much talked about, I don't read it anyway if it doesn't humor me. My husband reads those books and he can tell me what people think and were they good or were they bad. But for me, reading is basically to relax and to calm my nerves and to take me to the world of fiction, of happiness. My husband reads the same old books, partly that I do, and he describes them as beautifully written. And that's one way of putting it. How these old books that I want the world to see very beautiful from the modern day books. Of course, I read those too every once in a while. And I let you know if I find anything that would be worth reading for you. The thing that people don't realize, I think, that our brain has not developed very much from the Stone Age, that people were just looking out to a sunset and trees and grass and mainly things that didn't move or didn't do anything. And then they went and fall to sleep and wake up next morning when the sun rises. Our brain isn't wired for noises that interrupt us all the time and for flashing images. We are in a constant state of stress if we look at those or listen to those all the time for a long time. And of course in the evenings they kill our sleep and hinder us from relaxing. And that's not a good thing. Because we need to relax. If you feel stressed or overwhelmed, you need to get yourself yourself to a place where you feel good, where you feel serene. And that's why books are one vehicle for that. Of course, there are some stages that you might be too stressed to even to read. But I think that I will talk about that in another video, because I have some sort of experience of that kind of stress, the stress that doesn't allow you to be even still. But I thought that I make you some recommendations, that I would start a series, that I pick a writer that I found good and tell a little bit about the writer himself or herself, and then talk about their books. What are they about? And you can decide for yourself if you wish to read them or try to read them. And of course I try to find where you can find the books, if they can be found in these days. All the books are from the history, the classics, and some new ones. If you have read recently some good books, please put them in the comments below, so we can all take tips from one another about good books. But I see you in the first writer review. I hope you have a great day. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.